Hey everybody, welcome back to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I'm your host, Caleb.
I'm Seth. I talk Star Wars with this man.
Alright, well, let's first talk about what we've been up to this week that's not Star Wars based, and kind of just, catch everybody up with our week.
All right, you want to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Neat. Uh, Andrew's birthday happened.
Yep.
I'm a little bro.
Yeah, I said it on a day after, but happy birthday, Drew.
Yep.
Um,
It was a fun party.
okay. I was told I would be told when it was happening, but nobody reached out to me.
Oh no.
That includes you.
Sorry. Yeah, that does include. Fuck. I was like, I'll let him know. I proceeded to not fucking do that.
I'm guessing y'all just had a party at the house, and
Yeah.
I probably should have just went myself and just invited myself, but
Yeah, I was like, it's Sunday, I guess.
I just didn't know when y'all would do it
Yeah.
exactly. I think, trying to remember if I was doing anything that Sunday. I don't think I was. I didn't have D&D, so no, I don't think so. Because we didn't do acquisitions that day. Oh well.
I'll get the next one.
Yeah, we'll wait a whole year. The next Drew's birthday.
I'll get it.
We'll try it again.
We'll try again.
Nah, there's other parties that will happen because I know that house. Y'all have parties. Well, y'all have less of them than y'all used to, but
We're like, they've also calmed down a lot.
it's more just chill vibe, drink, but still just vibing rather
Yeah.
than loud music and everything. Yeah.
For most of the quote unquote party, most of what I did, I think I like poured a third of vodka into like a fucking red Solo cup and then like cherry Pepsi and drank that.
Yeah.
Then I spent the rest of the night with Chris and Sky shooting balloons that we threw into the air.
We also had the snowpocalypse.
Yes, we did. I got off of work for like 2 days.
So yeah, in case y'all don't know, we live in South Alabama, like the deep South.
Mm-hmm.
So snow is not a usual thing.
Yeah.
I'm used to snow because I grew up and my dad was in the military. I moved around a lot. This part of Alabama has been my majority home.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's where I've lived the most out of my life. But I've also lived in Alaska for 2 years. I've lived in Connecticut for 3. I've lived in West Virginia for like 2. So I know snow. I know what like, and I've never driven in it though, mind you.
Yeah.
So that, and also our infrastructure is not prepared for that.
It is not.
Because we don't sell like snow tires, which is really what you should have if you're going to drive on snow. It creates the traction you need to actually properly drive on snow. The other problem is people down here are terrible at driving to begin with. So add snow, or even worse, like after the snow starts to melt, black ice. Which is the real problem when driving in the snow. It's not the snow, it's the black ice, because you can't really tell black ice from like just road at like a first glance. And then it's even worse at night. So you definitely don't want to be driving at night in that condition. So our city basically just said, yeah, we're just not going to open things.
Yep.
Except for Waffle House. Waffle House stayed open.
Nope. Waffle House closed and then it reopened the next day.
Okay, so it closed the first day.
Yes.
Okay.
They were like, fuck this.
So we actually...
Do you know how bad things have to be?
It's got to be so bad if Waffle House closes.
The level of concern is relegated to, is Waffle House still open?
There is a federal Waffle House index. You look at the Waffle House index and it tells you how bad. Like, that's how we tell hurricanes even in this area. Is
Talking with Dragon the other day, a while back. She's like, I've never been into a Waffle House. She's like thinking that they're like the
They
fucking
they're almost
random encounter zone.
yeah, like they're like almost what liminal spaces sort of situation.
Yeah.
But they're not. They have weird things about them because they are this. Since they're open 24 hours, you're gonna
Yeah.
get the weird people coming in, right? You're gonna get the oddity of some random, and so that's why you see videos of like Waffle House employees having to knock back chairs like video game characters. Like, it, that's just the case of any place that would be open 24 hours, I think. Right. And in this case, especially somewhere where food is provided, right? And you can get coffee like whenever, right? Like, so like that's just the case of a place like that, and their food is generally pretty good. I will say we had some today actually.
Oh, good.
Not impressed with the bacon I had today. Usually I get the all. My go-to, I don't know what your go-to for Waffle House is, but my go-to is the All-Star Special, which is it comes with the waffle, and you can like upgrade the waffle for a few extra cents, right? You could go, oh, I actually want a chocolate chip waffle. I never really upgrade the waffle, but then you choose between grits or hash browns. I go back and forth depending on the day. Both are good options. Can't go wrong either way, I think. And then I usually get for my eggs, I usually get them not scrambled, but over easy or right. But I got scrambled today. But I usually get bacon as my meat because you get bacon. You get your choice of like sausage, bacon, whatever, right? Bacon today was disappointing. Because usually, Waffle House is pretty good with their bacon. Usually you get pretty good crispy bacon. This time I got like one good crispy bacon out of the three, and the other two were kind of meat, a little too undercooked and like fatty. And so, it's the risk you take when you get bacon, though. You risk a kind of under like not as crispy bacon because not all people know how to cook bacon a little bit more. You gotta let it get crispy, I think, to be good bacon. So Carrie got a piece of bacon today because I was like, I'm not eating this. And so, and then you get toast as well. So that's my go-to. What is your go-to for Waffle House when you?
Fucking no. I'm trying to think of the last time I went to a Waffle House. I think it was with my dad for my birthday 2 years ago.
See, when
you would think I'd go into a Waffle House a lot more than
I think. Like I would think, like Drew and them would like Waffle House too.
they do.
Oh, okay.
I just haven't been in Waffle House.
See, when I was attending South, Waffle House is a tradition for. If you are a drama kid, Waffle House is a tradition because we finish a show, and then we do like, you do strike, which is when you take everything down.
Yeah.
And that usually takes like all night, and then you go to Waffle House after, and you all have late night Waffle House, and that's like usually the tradition. And so that was like the tradition at South, at least when I was attending. I can't speak for today, obviously, because it's been so many years, but I have good fond memories of that. Of just like, especially because it's like right across the street from. So we would just finish up and then go right across the street. But what else you get up to this week besides Drew's birthday?
Besides that, I ran the 2020 game. We're out. They did the thing that always happens anytime you run a tabletop RPG. Never expect your players to go and do the thing you prepared for, ever.
Which is kind of funnily enough a topic that like we got onto last night, because after Grim Hollow, which I'm gonna upload it today onto the Patreon. Patreon members, go watch it because it is. I think it's the most fun episode we've had in a minute.
Yeah.
Because it's a role play. It's more of a role play episode, and so I really let you guys kind of have fun with like the world that y'all are in. Because for the YouTube end, y'all haven't started the arc that they're in yet. but they go into a new arc where they end up in a new town that has like weird things about it
Hmm.
without giving away too much.
We don't want to spoil what the gimmick for it is.
And so, because of that weird gimmick, there's certain things about it, and y'all got to play around with like the other like people that live in this town, and we had a little fun with that. And I think it made for probably the most fun we've had in a few sessions. Like that's like lighthearted fun.
Yeah.
Like everything else has been kind of dour, and like in the case of the episode that's out now for YouTube, y'all just got out of the ditches, which is like this dull and gray and depressing area.
We go to the best places in Atharis. I'm thinking maybe in the future Boone will like book the party like a week at the Caledon Inn.
But this
I don't know how he's gonna afford that.
But that created a conversation after the game that you, me, and Steve and Chris and Sky had, where we were just like, yeah, you know, as a DM, you kind of just, it's a little bit of 50-50 on the argument of do I prepare or do I just go fire, like, you know, seat in my pants, right? It's a little both. You want to plan just enough that you have like an outline, you know, the major events, you at least know your combat. You should know your combat.
Yeah.
But then you should also leave enough room for what will my players do. And I think that creates a good balance. I think over preparing can be a problem, but it's very rare that that's a problem. Under preparing though is definitely a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing more does not actually make you less flexible. Funny enough, it actually can make you more flexible, I think. And that was my point last night, and I think that leans into what you're about to talk about with Cyberpunk of what happened.
So I was like, okay, so they go and meet up with the Nomad group that Steve's character Nova is from, and the first big problem that they get to solve, right, is they have taken like one of our oil rigs, and because it's basically Mad Max in the rest of the U.S.,
yeah,
that's pretty bad for Nova's family.
Yep, it's yeah, you're basically doing Mad Max Fury Road / Road Warrior, where you got the oil, you know, everybody's fighting over the oil rig.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking maybe they'll go here first, but I'm also like, I'll give them this other bit of information of these other two problems if they want to go and solve them. I'm like, yeah, they've got some hostages, so you guys can go and rescue them, or you guys can go and like try to break up this little like peace treaty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like a deal going on with the clan that Steve's family is not Steve's family. Nova's family is fighting, and another like neutral party. So they decide, all right, cool. We'll go and rescue the hostages first, right? You know.
Yep.
So they go and they do that, and I'm like, okay. What's the plan? Are you guys gonna like try and sneak around and do this? Or are you guys gonna like stealth in? Or... And they go, nah, we're gonna blitz it. I'm like, okay then. So, Chris's character, Core, fucking demon that he is, jumps up onto the roof of the house, right? And Core, for some reason, instead of being his, like, usually lethal self, decides, I know what to do. I'm gonna do that thing in fiction that big dumb villain guys do all the time. Instead of actually finishing my opponent off, I'm just gonna pick him up and slam him and throw him around a bit.
Oh, okay. Yep. I was gonna say you're gonna start monologuing. No.
No, but that would have been great.
You pick them up and then you just monologue while you're holding them. Also, a really good like villain move that they do a lot is
Yep.
they'll actually be like, "I've got you in my hold. Now let me tell you my plan while I'm holding you,"
Yep.
and then you kick me in the face and get out of there.
Yep. And so Cord does that, and Chris is like, "God damn, what does it take to kill this guy?" I'm like, "None of what you have done has been lethal." Don't get me wrong, you did pick this guy up and throw him
Yeah,
because of the game mechanics of Cyberpunk. The reason why, logically, they should be dead because of how Core is designed,
but also game mechanics.
but also game mechanics. And the game mechanics are keeping this guy alive.
Yeah,
And so, initiative has already been rolled and things have kind of been going pretty well. Except for one small detail. Since no one was actually able to get inside of the little hostage room, so there were 5 hostages alive. 2 of them were dead when they got there. There were 3 potentially to save.
I'm guessing because they took too long, that's not the case.
I'm like,
Because you and me operate on the same idea of there are consequences to, like, you and me both agree that players can do whatever they want, but there's consequences to what they do.
Yes.
And so that's something you and I both operate on as DMs. And so, slash storytellers, slash whatever you want to call it, depending on the game.
oh yeah, Cyberpunk uses the term referee
Yeah,
of all things.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that, yeah. And so, yeah, and then, like, GM, Game Master, which is, I think is the best for overall, because that's just, I think GM is the best overall one, because that's one that could be applied to all of them. But, yeah, anyways, yes, and so, yeah, I'm not surprised that, oh, yeah, people are now dead because they took too long.
I was like, okay, it's your turn, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I'm just going to go and execute this guy. And I'm like, alright, cool. So, fun fact about how Cyberpunk works, you can take as many actions as you want,
Yeah.
except there is a -3 penalty
Yeah, I
for
think we
each
talked.
additional
Yeah,
action.
this is a reminder for those who have not watched us talk about this before. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so like you can keep doing things, it just becomes harder and harder to do them.
I think by the time Chris was done with his turn, he was at like a -12 or a -15.
So he did like 4 to 5 things.
Yeah. Sky didn't do much on his turn. He basically walked over to the door and got it open. Unfortunately, by the time they got there, I was like the one guard in there. He's got orders like, hey, if we're unable to get what we need from these guys, just blast them.
Yeah.
So instead of the now 3 hostages, they left with 1.
Oops.
They then interrogated that guy.
Did this go like Tanachi Drew interrogation level, or was this actually like a reasonable interrogation?
This was a reasonable interrogation. And then a summary execution once. Because it was like, well, we don't have enough people or the resources to take care of this guy. And we also can't have him walking away and telling our enemy where we are. So,
this is a little bit of for your own sake, but also ours.
Yeah. So Nova was like, alright. Bow. So they're gonna go and do, I was like, I'll give you guys like 2 days to rest up after that, because they immediately went and did the hostage rescue mission, narratively, after a 12-hour car ride.
Yeah. So they basically Final Fantasy 15 went on a road trip and got into a fight, and now they're exhausted.
Yep. Now they're like, we're gonna go take a nap. They learned some more about like Nova's family. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else you've been up to this week?
I played a little bit. I actually did a different live stream this week.
Oh yeah.
Outside of the usual one. We finished up Velgard Monday, and then Wednesday, since I was off work because of the snowpocalypse,
Yeah.
I went ahead and did a surprise stream on TikTok, and I played some of the closed beta for the new Game of Thrones game that's coming out, which is like for mobile and PC, and it actually plays like a legit RPG.
All right.
It was actually a lot of fun. I'm excited to play the real thing. Like, I'm excited to play the full thing now. You play as somebody whose uncle is part of the wall, and your dad's like, well, you're a bastard. So your dad is a ruler of one of the smaller, like, not like keeps, one of the smaller villages, and then it becomes sort of a RPG of you trying to defend against the wildlings, because it's during season 4, so it's when the wildlings are about to cross the wall and start their like full-on war with the south, right? When when Mance Raider's still in charge, and then it's also, though, you get to fight some of the White Walkers, and that was woo. But it's also a keep management sort of sim thing, which is where the mobile game kind of aspect comes in that you're gathering resources out in the open world. You go gather resources, but then you come back and you can upgrade like the stables and parts of your your estate, because you become legitimized, and so it becomes you building up stuff, preparing for the wildling attacks that are about to happen, right? And the White Walkers as well, because you also know they are coming because you have seen them. And so that becomes like part of the mechanics, and that's about the most I got to play, because it was also the last day of the closed beta being open. And so, but I got to have my hands on it for a couple hours, and I gotta say I enjoyed it so much so that I am now rewatching Game of Thrones. Because I have the box set, so I was just like, well, I guess I should just rewatch the show again, because now I'm like, I got to remember all this information when this game comes out. I got to remember what's going on, because like there was stuff where I was like, I don't know exactly when in season 4 this is supposed to be, and I was like trying to like remember certain things and be like, okay, so Jon is back. He came back from the wildlings already. So where are we at in that part of the narrative? And so I'm on season 2 now of my rewatch, so I'm flying through it. But it's also an easy show to rewatch, but there's also things I forgot happen in the show. Like I told you last night, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about the Hill tribes and their like connection to the Lannisters, and how the Lannisters were like, yeah, we'll help you take over the Vale if you help us. And it's because they just disappear again, like, pretty much the next season. They become irrelevant, and that's why I forgot about them. I was like, I don't remember this subplot, because it becomes irrelevant. But it would have been such a different show if the Lannisters really did go like, hey, we should attack the Vale and give these Hill people what they want. And it's like, yo, if the Hill people took over the Vale before, like, later seasons, that would have solved so many problems. Especially because we learn later in the show about what Lysa was really up to with Littlefinger. And so, and with some of that information like now known, rewatching it, it's like, oh, you dirty. It's like, Lysa, you're such a snake. It's so different watching the show with that information in mind, where it's like, oh, I know that from the beginning, Jon's death has nothing to do with the Lannisters. It's Littlefinger and Lysa from the beginning, just manipulating this whole situation, and then pointing the finger at the Lannisters. And then Viserys just going, I guess I will just let this happen. For the good of the kingdom. But also, Viserys also trying his best to be like, hey, maybe you should make peace, and we should not have a war. Because, like, I'm trying to get Daenerys over here to become in charge. So maybe Ned, you should just bow and get it over with. And then, of course, Joffrey messes that up because Joffrey goes, "Nah, I know I was supposed to send Ned over to the wall and take the black, but no, I'm just gonna behead him." And then that starts an entire war. Because, like, let's be honest, if they had done that, I think if Joffrey had been able to be held under control, and they could go, all right, Ned takes the black, we still marry Joffrey and Sansa, right? We still have let that go through, and then we just have Arya go back to her family, right? Rob would probably have been more willing to calm down, but he probably still would consider what he does. Like, he would still consider continuing the war. But I think Lady Stark would have been like, hey, no, we can chill. Like, my husband's alive. He's going over the wall, sure, but he's alive. And we still get to be in charge of the North. Right? It would have still had resentment, but I don't think it would have been to the levels of starting a war. Because I think Tywin also would have, like, been like, hey, none of this war shit. Because even in season 2, he sends Tyrion down to King's Landing because he's like, I gotta fight a war, but I also don't want these King Joffrey running amok, continuing to make the messes that he's making right now. And I know, Tyrion, you don't respect Joffrey, so therefore I know you're gonna slap him if he does something stupid and not be afraid of him. Whereas everybody else is afraid of this child. Even his own mother. And that's why they let him do what he does. That's why Joffrey gets away with everything, is because everybody's just afraid of him. Whereas Tyrion's not really afraid of him. Tyrion will... And neither is Tywin, which is also why when Tywin at the end of season 2, when he shows up and he's like, oh, I'm here to now be Hand of the King. He does not put up with Joffrey either. He doesn't put up with it.
You're right. They don't. I've been
like you're thinking about it. And you're
I'm thinking about it. I'm like the two people who shut that shit down, and the way that they do it is very similar.
Tyrion is more of a disrespect, like publicly.
Yeah, Tyrion is like fucking that slap is
like the slap in season 1
fall from my wrist.
Like the slap in season 1 before Joffrey's king. Even then, he's like, and he's like, how dare you?
Just a king.
Yeah, and now he'll do it again when he's king.
Do it again.
Yeah. He'll do it when he's king. Meanwhile, Tywin is more of, I'm more powerful than you, and you know that. And also, I am scarier than you.
Yeah. Tywin, anyone who has to say they are the king is not the king.
Yeah. Like, Tywin he's a visible threat, whereas Tyrion is a physical threat to Joffrey. Which is kind of funny.
Which is very funny.
It's also why that show is, like, in the early seasons, it's so good. I've talked about, I don't mind the later seasons. I understand the dislike of the ending of the show. I am not as disappointed as other people with the ending of the show, but I understand it. But the early seasons are beloved because of how well written it is. Like, even with the adaptational changes between the book and the show, it's so good because it has these creative dynamics between characters, and you're just like, what are people thinking, and what is their next move? Like, you're watching it going, like, even when Tywin makes Tyrion, like, his, like, replacement for the moment, everybody's like, okay, why, though? What is Tywin's actual plan here?
Yep.
Like, because he says it's so Tyrion can, like, hand out, like, bring order. But also, does he really trust Tyrion to do that? Or is he just hoping that Tyrion will mess it up, and by the time he comes back, he can punish Tyrion for all the mess-ups? Because let's not forget how badly the battle at King's Landing goes with the fire. Like, Tyrion's whole plan is, we're gonna light my own ship on fire so we save the day. And that almost fails. If Tywin doesn't show up at that battle, they all fail, and King's Landing gets taken over. It's only because Tywin shows up that they don't. Because he pulls a Gandalf coming in from the sideline.
Other thing that happened this week is we progressed a little bit further in our Berserk.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
Exciting thing on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
We are also working on the poster for our next podcast idea. So the next podcast is in the works officially. I made the down payment for the poster, so I made our deposit.
Mm-hmm.
I sent all the references. I actually sent a couple extra references for like poses of what I think it should look like. And so that should be starting to be in the works this week. It'll probably take a little bit, probably a month to kind of really get it done, maybe 2. But in the meantime, we'll probably start getting ready to record episodes because we can still record them even because this one's going to be pre-recorded. So we can probably...
it won't be a live one like this one.
Yeah, so we can probably start recording them even before the poster comes out. And then I can always edit the poster in and yeah. So that's exciting for the channel. I'm excited that we're going to do another podcast because this is one we've been talking about doing for a few years now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Anything else?
The last thing for me that I did this week is I went and purchased a copy of Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I was able to get it really cheap for like $7.89.
Not bad, not bad.
Well, the deluxe edition.
Good game.
Yeah.
Good game, good price.
Oh boy.
It's an interesting time to be playing a game like that.
Yeah. Jensen is a pretty patient. Adam Jensen's a very patient man for what he is going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, my last thing for this week actually has to do with the news, so we can start with Star Wars news for this week.
Yeah, we've been talking about other stuff for
almost an hour. So starting this week's news segment, we will go into video game news. This week we got the release of Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles Remaster. I did manage to get my hands on it, and for me it was a good time. We'll try to get Seth some hands-on time with it too, because there is couch co-op for it. So I think, and y'all already saw my video because I released it when I played it. I played it and then released the video like that day. I think we'll play some more of it. I want to do some couch co-op with you because I think it's a fun game. You're basically replaying events of Episode 1, but you get to pick what Jedi are on you play as, or even non-Jedi because they have Padme and Captain Panaka, and also Jar Jar is an unlockable somewhere as a playable character. But yeah, so, and it's basically like a side-scroll well, it's not really side-scroll because it's got 3D parts where you can go to the back and the front, but it's like a beat-em-up, but with like arcade-style point system and like upgrades to your, like, you can get like extend the lightsaber thing as one of the upgrades, so it makes the lightsaber go a little further out. So it's an arcade beat-em-up almost with some platforming in it as well. Which I heard the platforming was the hardest bit, but I will say the remaster kind of fixes that, it seems, because I don't have too many problems with controllability during the platforming, but I'm also not that far in the game. Like, I'm still on Naboo. But I'm having fun. So if you enjoy some classic Star Wars gaming, it's out now on everything. Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. I almost said 64 because I was thinking of the other games. Because you can also get this in a prequel pack of games that include the Republic Commando port, the Episode 1 Racer port, which is what I played on Nintendo 64 back in the day. That's why I was thinking. And then also the Bounty Hunter remaster. So you can get all 4 of those games in one pack. Which honestly, I think they're on sale because when I got Jedi Power Battles remaster and played it when it came out because I pre-ordered it, so I got it a little bit cheaper on sale because PlayStation let me get it for on sale since I pre-ordered it. But when I went to play it, I also saw that like Republic Commando was on sale for like $7. So was Racer, and I was like, oh, I should just get those because they're like $7 a piece. Why not? And so, I pretty much have every Star Wars game that's available on PS4, PS5 to play on my PlayStation right now. Only one I don't have is the Lego Force Awakens game on there, but I have it on PC. So, I mean, it'd be nice to have it on PlayStation though as well, because then I don't have to boot this up if I want to play that. How's that? How's that feel excited? Does that kind of excite you that they're doing kind of these remasters?
I feel nothing.
You feel nothing. I mean, yeah.
Sorry.
Like Jedi Power Battles was not one that I grew up playing, but I'm excited that there's a way to now play them on modern consoles, right? Like that's really the excitement of this, is that it's preserving games in a way, and it's also remastering it so it's playable. Because that was also my problem when I played. Let's not talk about when I played Bounty Hunter for the channel before the Bounty Hunter remaster came out. Because they did the port. Because a port is the difference is a port is they just bring the game over to a new console, no changes, right, graphically or in game, right. A remaster, they make changes to fix it up, and then a remake is they build it from the ground up again, right. That's how I classify those as different. A lot of people will go, oh, those are the same thing. No, they're not. To me, they are three different things that do three different things for accomplishing video game legacy. And so, I think, while it's nice to have the ports because it keeps the game as is, I prefer a remaster because that makes the game playable. Because Bounty Hunter port.
There was some pain there, from what I understand.
Because the Bounty Hunter game, LucasArts thought, hey, let's just add the more enemies there are. That's what creates difficulty, not actual types of enemy. Like they were different types of enemies, but they would just send waves of them, and it's like, yeah, I'm a guy with a blaster. That's gonna create problems on a difficulty spike. And so, I have not played the remaster to those levels where I got frustrated because I haven't really sat down and played Bounty Hunter Remaster much. But they did change like some of the controls to make it more not weird. Because some of the controls are also weird where you hit buttons that you fit to do things that you would be like, I feel like this should be at a different part of the controller, right? And so, as somebody who didn't grow up with Jedi Power Battles, I'm also not somebody who has any complaints with the original, so I'm kind of just coming in with fresh eyes, just enjoying the remaster as is. We have a couple pieces of comic book news this week. The first, I think, is no surprise to most of us who'd been following what could happen next with mainline Star Wars, but we now know officially that the new Star Wars #1, because they're resetting, right? We knew that was coming. Star Wars #1 will come out in May, and it will continue past the Battle of Jakku maxi series that they just wrapped, and bring us into the New Republic era. Like I said, no surprise. Going back into the Clone Wars, however, the Bad Batch Ghost Agents comic that we've talked about a couple times has shown that the Bad Batch might have had a run-in with Ventress before her iconic return to the small screen in Season 3 of the Bad Batch, as she appears on the cover for Issue 1. Which readers will get to find out more about on February 12th when that issue comes out. So
I was thinking about this when I read that. I was like, oh yeah, because they fully go, she's a traitor and a war criminal when she shows up.
Yeah, and like that was her iconic return to the small screen, because for the rest of Clone Wars, we are not going to see Ventress in the show. Yeah. Sorry, bud.
Damn.
Well,
that's half the reason. Nah.
I'll be nice. we've made the joke already before about Ventress and Seth, so we're just gonna leave it there.
Yep.
Um,
Like that evil sword witch.
and then but yeah. So out of both of these, any surprises? It sounds like the Ventress one you're kind of excited to see.
Yeah. Plus, I like the Bad Batch. They're fun.
And while it's going back to Clone Wars, like we've said,
Yeah.
we haven't had a lot of Bad Batch Clone Wars, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's different than, and honestly, it's different than like if we were going back in more Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah. If I see Anakin and Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars again, swear to fucking God.
Hell, even Ahsoka. Like,
see you. Ahsoka's cool, but I don't care.
But like Bad Batch, we get Clone Wars. We get one arc with them, and we haven't even watched that arc yet. And so like that, and honestly, some people think that arc is the weakest of season 7, but we will discuss that when we get to season 7. But yeah, so like that's it for Bad Batch and Clone Wars, because then the Bad Batch show is after the Clone Wars. It's after like it's the early days of the Empire, and so. And then as far as Star Wars #1, I'm excited that we're moving forward. I'm excited that we're continuing into the New Republic era. That makes sense to me. I would have been fine either way of going prequel era or New Republic, but New Republic makes more sense to me. And the cover looks good. It showed our boy from Bounty Hunter. It showed. Let me pull it up. It was a pretty good cover. Where is it at? Oh, it's actually a variant cover with him, but it's not the main cover. The main cover has like Han, Luke, and Leia, and some X-wings and a Star Destroyer. But like Valence, yeah.
Sorry, it took me a second.
Yeah, our boy Valence is on the variant cover, which might imply he might be in the issue, but it also just could be a cool variant cover, because variant covers don't always like show the characters that are in the comics. But it is exciting to see him on there, which means maybe they are planning to have Valence a part of it, because his Bounty Hunter story is kind of over, and it does seem like he's now more on the New Republic, late Rebellion, New Republic side.
He a cyborg now, full.
We also haven't read the Battle of Jakku maxi series yet, so we don't know what happens between the end of the 2020 era of comics and the new era, the 2025 is what I'll call it, the 2025 era of comics. So we don't know yet, right? Oh yeah, we do get a description. So actually, we can make some guesses that Valence is going to appear, because it's the description we get is: an epic new adventure begins for Luke, Leia, and Han in the wake of Return of the Jedi. New York Times bestselling author Alex Segura launches the bold next era of Star Wars, which that's an interesting choice of author for it, because I like Alex Segura. He's the one that did well, he wrote a lot of the Battle of Jakku arc maxi series, but I haven't read any of it, so I don't have opinions on that. But he did you haven't read it yet, but he did Poe Dameron Freefall, which I thought was good. And so he's pretty much that's his like main stuff. I've read some other books that are non-Star Wars that are good from him. Alter Ego is good. He's definitely a big comic book nerd, and he's the perfect choice for a comic book story. But bullet points for that issue, according to the little announcement: Luke Skywalker must defend the New Republic from a bloodthirsty gang of mercenaries. Han Solo investigates a deadly underworld mystery and saves a surprising ally, probably Valence, based on the variant cover. Leia Organa must grapple with a new alliance opposed to the goals of the New Republic. So, early New Republic politics, probably for Leia stuff. And so that's like stuff I'm excited about. I think, especially because I've been reading that arc for the new Alexander Freed novel, The Mask of Fear book, which is also around this time of the Empire, right? or the newer, which is also like in the early days of the Empire. So seeing the early days of the Empire versus the early days of the New Republic are interesting to me. So like, and being able to compare them and see
Compare and contrast.
yeah, and be like, what did the New Republic do wrong and right compared to what the Empire did wrong and right, and how did like,
Hi, Pixie.
hey Pixie, hey Zach, and like what did our heroes in those eras do wrong and right? Because like Mask of Fears from the perspective of Mon Mothma, Bail, and Saw Gerrera, and some other characters, right? And so getting their perspectives of things compared to, say, Leia, Luke, and Han at the beginning of the New Republic, versus what we see in the New Republic in Mandalorian, right? Because we see how the New Republic fails a bit in the Mandalorian as well, because we see them kind of going the end of World War II route when it comes to how they treat Imperial officers, right? They kind of, yeah, they what's it called? The project
Paperclip.
yeah, project. They basically project paperclip the Imperial, and we see that in season 3 of Mando, right? And it's just like, oh, this is how. This is how. Yeah. Now we see how the you know how the Empire kind of survives in the First Order.
Yep.
And kind of how the First Order is able to be secretly founded into the New Republic's like starting foundations. Yep. So I'm excited to see that stuff. Lastly, movie news. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Ryan Gosling might be starring in Sean Levy's Star Wars film. Because Sean Levy, this is one I think we talked about once, because it's one of those movie director announces that they're working on a Star Wars film and then we don't know anything about it situation. And Sean Levy is the guy who did Deadpool and Wolverine, and
all right,
so he directed that, right? And then
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's around the time we learned about Sean Levy's film, because everybody was like, "Oh, Sean Levy doing," because he just finished Deadpool and Wolverine. He's doing a Star Wars movie, and it's like, okay. But everybody's beloved Ken from the Barbie movie is now supposedly in it, according to Hollywood Reporter, which would a good choice. He's a good actor, so and I trust Hollywood Reporter. They're usually pretty spot on. Like, they're legitimate movie news source. They also brought us another piece of news this week, in that the new Jedi Order film is essentially back in pre-production, because remember how we talked about that they lost a writer, and so they were kind of re-scrambling to kind of rewrite it. Well, they got a new writer. They found a new writer in George Nolfi, who is known for Ocean's 12 and Bourne Ultimatum, for writing those films. And so he's going to continue where the writing team left off, which I think hopefully means that New Jedi Order will start getting pushed forward, and we'll get a little more production moving forward for that, because that was the film that I predicted would have been the next film we got. But then we had that halt of pre-production writing, and I was like, oh, we're going to take some time, and because originally I was thinking, okay, well, we're definitely getting Mandalorian Grogu first, because we know when that one's coming out. That's next year. But then there's a space for like either 2027 or 2028 that they have open, and they just haven't announced what film is going there. Mm-hmm. And I had originally, my main guess would have been New Jedi Order, but with that pause on production, writing-wise, I was like, well, maybe not that. It depends, but also, I don't know if it'd be the Dawn of the Jedi film, because it's between New Jedi Order and Dawn of the Jedi, in my opinion, as the next Star Wars film we get after Mandalorian and Grogu. It's going to be one of those two, because Dawn of the Jedi, we finished the first draft of the script, is what we've heard, but like that doesn't mean anything. The script's not done.
Yep.
That's the first draft, and they're going to still write a little bit more before going into production. And I also think, what's his name is still, well, he finished, I mean, now he's got to do Oscar circulation for The Complete Unknown for his Bob Dylan film, right? because he directed that Bob Dylan biopic, James Mangold. So since he directed that, I think that's going to take him some time before he gets around to seriously working on Star Wars, because now he's doing circulation for Oscars, right? And could probably be up for. I don't know if he's up for best. I don't know where in Oscar noms he is. I don't know if he's up for nomination as best director from that. Let me see, actually. He's got 3 nominations. It doesn't say which nominations he's got for it. Let's see. I'm actually curious real quick.
All right.
Sorry, it'd be Academy Awards is how they. He is up for Best Director. So, yeah, he's probably going to be doing some circulation for that then.
All right.
And that's good for him because he's a good director. I mean, he brought us Logan. He brought us Ford v Ferrari, which I think is a really good. Like, even if you're not into cars, that's a good movie. Like, even if you don't care about like cars and racing, that's a good movie. I mean, he also did. He also did the most recent Indiana Jones film, which I thought was really good. I also like the Wolverine. He didn't write that. That's one of the few he didn't write and direct. But I do like the Wolverine. It has its problems, but it's still a good film. He also did 3:10 to Yuma because he started with a lot of westerns and a little bit. He did a romantic comedy because Kate and Leopold. Good film. Girl Interrupted, also a good film that he directed. Classic. Walk the Line, another good biopic. He's really good at those, I guess. I mean, because whenever anybody thinks of Johnny Cash, they always think of Walk the Line, right? They think of, like, when they picture Johnny Cash, a lot of the time, they'll picture, Joaquin Phoenix, right? As, you know what I mean?
No.
You've never... Oh.
I've never seen Walk the Line.
Oh, it's a classic.
I've got, like, the greatest hits. There's a picture of Johnny Cash himself on it.
Yeah, I know, but when people are like... People will think of Walk the Line. Like, it's a common thing. It's a common thing.
Fucking Joaquin Phoenix. Fuck off.
It's a good movie.
No, not that. I just don't like that guy.
And he does a good job in the role. I do have problems with some of his other portrayals of certain things, but I think he's really good in that. And unfortunately, he does have a sad history of just life in general, and so it's yeah. I feel like one of the films from James Mangold you probably would have grown up watching is, funny enough, Copland. It's such a random one that I feel like you would. It's got Sylvester Stallone and Ray Liotta, and it feels like the type of Seth movie. Just from the cast, that feels like a Seth movie.
Again, James Mangold, Sylvester Stallone, Ray Liotta, and
Harvey
Robert
Keitel.
De Niro.
Harvey Keitel as well. So like, that's a Robert Patrick as well.
What a weird fucking.
Yeah, it's not his best. It's not his best film, but it's not bad either. It's definitely 90s in tone though. But no, I'm excited for whatever James Mangold's doing. It might be Star Wars might be his next film. We don't know
We'll see.
Because he doesn't really have anything else announced as what he's working on. So I think once he's done with a Complete Unknown and Oscar season's over, that's gonna free up time. But that's all in news. With that, let's get into today's main topic, Skeleton Crew.
Man.
So Star Wars Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess also Star Wars Treasure Island / Treasure Planet. Depending how you want to look at it. Which I called the Treasure Island references like from the get-go. Like as soon as that first episode happened and we saw like him getting when they were like, we're gonna mutiny, I was like, oh, this is Treasure Island. Captain Silvo, he's like getting kicked out of his pirate crew. This is Treasure Planet. This is like Treasure Island. And then he's gonna basically play the part of Long John Silver and kind of be with the kids and work with them. Boy, was I more right than I thought, because he stays the villain the entire show. Like, he starts off as I'm kind of working with the kids, and then he like villain. I guess I should just say spoilers.
Yeah.
But also it's been a week, so you've had time. That feels mean, but I did not mean it that way. But
oh boy. So meanwhile, I'm paranoid over here. Like, can't trust these fucking droids, man.
But it was really the pirates, just the pirates. Yeah. SM-33 is best boy droid, and honestly, I love SM-33 throughout this entire thing. I love that his name is just a reference to Smee. Yep. I love that he's basically, once again with my Treasure Island references, he's basically been from Treasure Island / Treasure Planet, because he functionally was there with the previous pirate who had found the island before, and then he has all these crazy memory losses because of his time with that. And it's just like, oh, he really is just... And then there's that episode where he's like, essentially, good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah.
And he starts to bring the smackdown on the kids.
Joss over here. Oh, shit, that's not good.
Yeah, and so...
Captain Silvo, Joss, Nana Wood.
Jod Nana Wood. What other nicknames? Yeah, hold on. We've got the... I can pull up the list. There's a list.
There's a list, because this man does nothing but lie.
Is it Jod Nana Wood, I think is... Yep, okay. Cool, I was right. Yeah, so his names include Jod Nana Wood, which is his real name. Crimson Jack, which is a name of somebody else in canon.
And we were like, wait a minute.
I was like, wait, you lost a lot of hair and no facial hair to be Crimson Jack. And then we thought about it and we were like, oh, is this a why did my brain just... I just forgot his name for no reason. I'm picturing his face. Rebels. Ahsoka. Guy they bring back from... that was hanging out with Thrawn in the Unknown. I can't think of his name. Ezra.
Oh.
Is this a Ezra being Jabba the Hutt / Lando Calrissian situation where he picks a really well-known person as his cover? We're on a break, so we'll keep kind of going. And so, but like, is this that kind of situation? Because that's the only way that really works. And it turns out, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And then he's also got Dash Zenton, Professor Umium Gorlox, Jodwick Zank, the Mad Captain Silvo, and then at the end of the show, Emissary.
Yep, so that's 7.
7 names that this man has collected in just this show that we know about. And that does... And, like, for all we know, he has, like, so many more that we just don't know about because we haven't run into other people from his past, right? Oh boy, though, surprise, surprise, the guy named Brutus is a traitor.
Yep. You know what? Brutus is right to be pissed off in that first instance.
But also, maybe Captain Silvo was given bad information and he believed that there was enough treasure in that vault on that ship, right? How was he supposed to know? But yeah. As captain, you do take responsibility for that happening, though. That's kind of the
single credit.
Like, that is the downside of being captain, is that you
when
take...
the shit the downside of being a leader, if you're a good one, is when shit goes sideways, it is your fault.
Even when it's not. And unfortunately, there are people like Brutus who will take advantage of that. which is what happened in the first episode. But I like going to like Star Wars Tortuga.
Yep. Great.
I love Jaleel White being a cyborg pirate. So the joke was, oh, it's Sonic the Hedgehog as a Star Wars pirate. Because, you know, Sonic X, or Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's Sonic X also. And then, of course, you may also know him better as Urkel from Family Matters. But it is funny thinking about that. Man, in that moment, that one moment where I'm like, oh man, he died. And then, like, next episode, they're like, no, he was not one of the people caught in that, or he escaped it. Like, could you hear him yell Captain Silvo when they do the acid pit?
Mm-hmm.
But then you see the next episode, so, like, that episode, originally I was like, oh, dang, rest in peace, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. And then next episode they show, oh no, he's alive. And he's alive, and he captured John. And so, like, I like how the show, you never really know what's gonna happen on the next moment. The kids are so great.
Yeah.
The kids are, like, they do follow the tropes of, like, the 80s, like, Goonies sort of adventure, like, coming-of-age story, right? They go on an adventure. There's the kid who believes in all the fairy tales and is kind of the reason that they get stuck on the adventure. Then there's the more mature kid who kind of takes the leadership role and is kind of mean to the believer until they start to rely on each other later. And then there's, like, the smart kid, KB, the kind of whiz kid that's good with technology. And then the kid who does not want to be on adventure whatsoever and just wants to go home. Our sweet baby boy, Neil. Neil just wants to go home. Everybody loves Neil, and if you bully Neil, you're an awful person. I mean,
no, you're not wrong. It's just I'm like, damn, what level of fucked up you gotta be to hate on that little elephant boy.
Although he's not
an elephant.
He's not the Ortolan. They actually said what he was, and everybody's like, "What the fuck is that?" But we're like, but also we love Neil, so we'll go with it. A Mickeyan is what they called it, because the difference being, like, Ortolans don't really, like, the way they sit. Their feet, and they don't have hands. They don't got hands.
No hands.
Whereas Mickeans have the regular four limbs, right? And so they're a new species for the show. I think the best part, because we're gonna jump around. One, I love Jod's little pirate shanty when he's on trial with the pirates. And they're like, all right, you get basically a minute to
all right, you got 1 minute.
And he goes into the pirate shanty, and I'm just like, oh, now we're really getting pirate stuff. It's not a pirate show without a pirate shanty. And then we get, like, and apparently, Jude Law made, like, he like, it was actual lines, but he made it, he basically ad-libbed it as being a shanty. I think that was a good choice. Because, like, they said, like, after that episode, like, Jude Law came out and was like, yeah, it was, like, in the script, this, like, thing, like, where I talk about it, but he was like, but then I decided to make it a shanty, and I'm like, yes. Because it works as a shanty, honestly, and honestly, it's more inspiring to do it that way, I think. Because I think if he just spoke those lines, I don't think that works in, like, getting the pirates on his side.
Mm-hmm.
But doing it as a shanty, it kind of unifies them. And it kind of forces Brutus's hand. He's like... he's got all this evidence, and he's now inspired them. I can't do anything about it. Also, I think the most brutal thing he does is how Brutus dies.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most brutal thing Jod does in the entire show.
It's the most pirate shit he does.
he takes advantage of the kids capturing Brutus with the claw, and he just goes, step, 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 gun, boom. And then just cold, like, stands there like, all right, kids, get out. I know you're in there.
Yeah.
And then he just goes full tilt bad guy from there.
Yep.
And that's, like, when he becomes bad guy. Like, up to that point, there was, like, a toss-up of whether Jod was going to help the kids or not. But the moment he kills Brutus and just takes command, that's when it's like, okay, he's the bad guy for the rest of this. And I kind of like that the show doubled down on it. And they don't do the whole redemptive, because we talked about this last night. They don't do the redemptive thing of like, oh, the kids are endearing to him, so he softens and becomes a better. They didn't do that. No. Yeah. I do think he can for a season 2. I think there's an opening for that in season 2, but for at least this season, no.
I was thinking about that after I got done watching. I was like, so what is your plan here, Jod?
Well, he was going to enslave them and make them just keep...
No, I mean after
now that the New Republic's here.
Now that the New Republic is here. I mean, the barrier's down, so if he gets his ship, he can leave.
Yep. Which I think that's where the show's either going to... Because they said that... I think they've said that it's done well enough that a season 2 is going to happen. But also, it's also been well received enough. A lot of, like, this is the one show that hasn't had anybody talking bad about it, which, thank goodness, I'm kind of tired of the fighting right now. Let's just enjoy a fun Star Wars show. Please. And so, this is the one time that's happened, so I think, yes, it's obvious we're going to get a season 2 now. One, the show, though, does such a good job that you don't need a season 2. Like, if the show had done poorly, this would have been fine where it ended. This would have explained a lot of things for Star Wars at the same time. Like, it explains a lot of the lore, while also being closed-ended, and, like, it leaves enough questions open for a season 2, but it, like, closes off. It does what the Acolyte season 1 did. It answers most of the main stuff, and then opens the door for new things. Yeah. And so... Like, because we now know, one, we know what was up with the barrier. We know, like, we know the mystery of At-Aten. Like, that is solved. There is no questions of what At-Aten was anymore. We now know it was a mint. Now, what did every other planet do? It could have done... I think they functioned for different purposes. I don't think they were all mints.
Yeah. No.
I think... Because they were the Great Works, right? So I think they all did different things for the Republic back in the Old Republic era. Some questions people have is, did Palpatine, like, make use of this planet, or did he lose access once the Republic was no longer the Republic? Because we don't really know if the Empire was still getting the funds from this planet, or if they were purely relying on the banking clan, which Palpatine has full control of, right? Whereas the Mint, he wouldn't have full control over it.
Yeah.
And especially because we get the idea that emissaries used to be like Jedi and stuff like that usually. And they kind of hint at the fact that an emissary hasn't been there in decades.
My assumption is that it was a lot pre-Palpatine.
Well, no, because they say that the last intermission, like last contact they got from the Republic was that the Jedi were traitors.
Yeah.
So that means it would have to be at least during that era, like during the prequel era, they were probably still having emissaries, just probably not as much.
Yeah.
Because because we know thanks to Clone Wars that the finances of the Republic were coming from the banking clan. So
the economics of Star Wars bullshit.
But now we can also know how the New Republic got funded so quickly. Because now they have access to this mint that can produce money. Now, I don't know how quickly they can do it anymore without the... I was going to say overseer, but... Essentially, they're...
Yeah. I was right. I was like, this fucking...
It's a robot.
It was like, this fucking... God, was...
The supervisor.
Yeah. I was like, is this place just ran by a robot when we first started watching it?
And I made the joke too. Like, I think a lot of people made that joke because a lot of people were thinking, "Oh, this is very Fallout," because like they're taking they're taking the goat,
Yep.
and then they're to basically get their role assignment within AT-AT.
You got to take your assessment. I'm like,
And then like there's this mystery like leader of the planet that we don't ever see, and people are like, "Is this just?" Is this just Fallout? Kinda, except
your dad isn't Liam Neeson.
well, and also in this case, I would say AT-AT wasn't a bad plate. Like like, I wouldn't say they were like a totalitarian system. They were still like doing, honestly, very democratic processes for a lot of stuff because it seemed like they were still operating under like republic laws. The other reason I think they don't really they stopped having contact once Empire formed is because they don't know about the destruction of Alderaan.
No.
They were not taught that. And this is post Return of the Jedi. So plenty of time to learn about it. And so yeah, I like the so now we now know how the New Republic kind of gets their funds. Although the problem is they're gonna have to lose them real quick because there's certain events that we haven't gotten into New Republic era wise that talk about how there's a financial crisis even for them. And so I think at some point they're gonna lose the ability to make this money, but also they don't have it might take longer now because there's no AI system really. That's because I think that's what made it so quick is they had that AI system and really everybody else was just computer people making sure the system stayed up and running, right? Like they were engineers, computer techs. That's really the jobs that most of these people had.
But also no one's came and picked up a shipment in at least 40 years.
Which is why we get the awesome Jod coming into the vault and seeing all that, those credits and the awesome, like, you know, it's the pirate scene where they see the treasure and they start to go mad because they're like, oh, all that treasure. And so I kind of like, there's a lot to like about this show, and I feel like it's just because it's a very whimsical show.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's just so full of whimsy that it's hard to hate it. And while it's connected to what Star Wars is, it's also very disconnected at the same time. Like, this is part of the Mandoverse. I hate using that term, but it's part of the Mandoverse era of stuff. So Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett. Like, it's part of that stuff to explain the early days of the New Republic and how we get to, like, the First Order kind of getting founded, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it at the same time, even though there's a lot of stuff that's answered in this that answers a lot of questions that we aren't thinking about until now that this show is out, where we're like, oh yeah, that is a good question that I didn't think about, but now I know the answer to because the show already presented it before I even thought of the question. Like how money, but so a lot of people are theorizing actually that Ahsoka season 2 or even the New Republic movie that Dave's directing, not the Mandalorian Grogu one, but the one that the other one he's directing, the one Dave's directing, which is supposedly a Thrawn film. A lot of people are thinking Thrawn's gonna somehow take AT-AT and which, yeah, because he's gonna need funding whenever he gets into New Republic space. And the smart and the strategical thing would be to take the mint.
Yeah.
When you first get in, the things you should take when you first arrive into enemy territory: their money and their ways of travel. So you're gonna take either their shipyards or their mint. And Thrawn's a smart enough guy that he's gonna know to do that.
Maybe they'll look at a fucking art sculpture of Ad and be like, I know it.
Well, and also Ad-Atten is no longer a mystery planet.
Yeah, no,
it is now no longer hidden. People now know where it is. Now, that also creates a problem where I think that we get into the Scipio problems, where now you've made it to where the government's going to have control over this planet entirely. And that, it's the problem Scipio have during Clone Wars, during the Banking Clan arc. It's like, oh, you brought war to Scipio, good job.
Nailed it.
Which, while there's no war going on at the moment, we know that the Empire / First Order is building up in the background, and so we know that the obvious, there's going to be stuff that happens to Ad-Atten because it's now a known place, and because the New Republic is going to start having protection of this planet. Like, they're gonna bring troops here, and it's going to be more noticeable that.
Yep.
Whereas before, there was no soldiers or anything. There wasn't even really a police system. It was just droids that.
Yeah.
And really, it was more truancy. That was the only like the worst thing that could be done in Ad-Atten prior to the barrier being released is being a truant. Like.
Yeah. I'm not gonna show up for work for half an hour.
I'm not going to school.
Fuck you. Like, this is alright. I get it. I mean, that's not that bad.
No.
But, like, how the parents treated is initially like, you fucking murdered a dog.
Well, but also it's because they know how important the mint is. Because that's the thing. All the adults know what they're doing, like what Ad-Atten's actually about. Because there's the line where Wendell goes to Wim. You weren't supposed to know until you took once you finished the exam, we were going to tell y'all. That's how that works. Y'all graduate from school and we tell you, like, what this planet, like, what we're doing. So, like, and honestly, Wendell's arc is, Wim's dad Wendell has such a good arc, I think, as a dad. Like, he starts as that disconnected dad who, like, it's a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
Where he's like, all right, I'm going to be working late, so here's the keys. Here's the money you need to get food for the next week. Kind of backseat parent. Like, he's not really parenting. He's kind of taking a backseat and let Wim kind of do whatever for the most part, except for when he skips school.
You and I had a discussion about Wendell the first time we kind of, like, met him during the first episode. And I was like, that's not a good thing. Where he goes, like, when he arrives back home and immediately is like, why didn't you do this thing? And I'm like, that's not. Can I get, like, a fucking hello? How was your day first?
Yeah. But I think Wendell's arc brings him to being a better dad. Because he realizes, like, as Wim's gone, he's realizing, like, I love my son. I need him back. I'm worried about him. And, like, the lengths the parents go to for their kids is wild. They basically commit, like, treason to Ad-Atten in order to get their kids back. Like, it is wild what they, like, they're basically like, all right, we're going to be spies and we're going to send out messages to our kids and we're going to get it through the barrier, even though that's illegal. Like, it goes full, like, almost like political thriller with them trying to get that message out. And then my favorite is when Wendell sucker punches Jod. Wendell got a good punch in. He got a good one in. But so I love the parents too. Like, the parents start off as the traditional 80s, like, we're the 80s movie parents where they don't really know their kids that well, but then much like an 80s film, they get to a better understanding of who their kids are and how much they love them, and the kids also now understand how much their parents do love them, and that's the kind of narrative you kind of want with that. Like, that's I mean, when you're doing essentially the 80s Goonies coming of age story, that's kind of what you want arc wise.
Another great moment, this is not related to the parents but related to the children. is KB having Wim repair her implant.
Yes.
Like, I remember the joke at the end of it. I was like, "Yeah, just do brain surgery on your friend, no pressure, right?"
Yeah, the fact that it's basically a shutdown and KB dies essentially.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm like, it's a good thing she's so chill about the fact that she.
But the interesting thing is, we now know that, like, because that's the thing, like, because you talk about how, like, cybernetics to you in Star Wars they should be for, like, reasons, and in the case of KB it is like we learn in that story because she talks to Wim about why she has the implants and all that. It's because she's disabled, essentially,
and she's like, even with them, I can't. There's certain things that I can't do,
and it creates this beautiful story for KB as well. And it's just like, oh, and it doesn't make her, like, they don't. What's the word I'm looking for? They don't.
It doesn't make less of her.
They don't make less of her because she's disabled.
They do acknowledge the reality of it.
Yeah, like, they're very much like, oh, she's not special because of it. She's not less than. That's just what she is. And, you know, there's things she can and can't do, but that's just like anybody else. Yeah. And we get to see her strengths, though, with her, how she handles the Onyx Sender, and being able, in a way, she becomes like the team's, like, pilot, essentially. And we see that, and I love that, and how she kind of takes charge there. And all the kids kind of find their little, like, what they're good at. Wim is actually also a good pilot and a good shot, because we see him take the Luke Skywalker, you know, gun turret scenes, and I like the gun turret scenes with Wim. And we see, like, he's actually really good at them. And I like how the last shot we get is Wim looking at the X-Wings as they fly overhead, kind of telling us, yes, that's what Wim wants to do now. Like, he doesn't want to be a Jedi now. He wants to be a pilot. And, like, and that's the last shot. We don't hear him say anything. We just see him watch it fly over, and we see his face light up, and that's it. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So we kind of, like, even if we didn't get a season 2, we know that Wim's gonna want to be an X-Wing pilot, and probably by the newer, probably by, like, the sequel trilogy era, maybe he's one of the pilots by then, right?
Maybe.
And then Neil is kind of there as the emotional support.
Neil, I don't want to be here, but I have to.
And he actually, like, he's the heart of the team. Yeah. Like, he brings like, I think his best episode is when they're on the other planet.
Yeah.
And we get to see him kind of be like, he fights against the idea of, hey, we got to have violence in order to get what we want. And he's like, no, you don't. And he's kind of like, his theory is kind of proven, it's half correct, right?
Yeah.
It's a case of, you're kind of right, but we got to fight to get to that point where we can get to being able to peacefully negotiate these things. And that's why, like, the girl of that planet's like, I'm going to remember your teachings because you are right. I want to be that kind of leader one day.
She's like, I can't do that right now.
One, because
maybe one day.
Because one, I'm too young, and two, like,
that's just not how this planet works.
Mm-hmm. But maybe once I get older and can be a full leader, then I can be that leader that you see me as. Yeah. And then Fern takes on full leader, like, actual good, and she becomes a better leader as the show goes on. Because at first it's what we talked about with Game of Thrones. It's you don't tell somebody that you're captain to be a like that's how Fern starts off. Fern starts off as, I'm captain because I say I'm a captain. And then, like, as the show goes on, she's a captain because we see how good of a captain she is.
You have to say you're in charge, then you're not in charge.
Yeah. Like, we see how everybody because even Wim acknowledges it. Wim's like, you are really good at making plans. You are a good leader. And sure, half of it is to get Fern's, like, get her back into a spot of thinking clearly. But it's also, I think Wim actually believes it in that moment too.
He's like, the Also on that same planet, the other planet, the moment of like, oh, so I'm supposed to just think of a plan to make everything better?
Yeah, and that's
what
not
the
what
fuck
Wim,
do you want me to do?
and like that's not what Wim means, but
Yeah.
like he believes that at some point she will come up. And guess what? In that moment, she immediately comes up with a plan. A good plan that, you know, it only backfires because of things they couldn't control.
Yeah,
but,
like they had no possible way of knowing.
yeah.
They didn't expect the fucking kill program to open.
Yeah. But I love this show. This might be the, like, this was a sleeper hit because, like, nobody expected anything from this show. Like, this was the show, like, everybody was like, it could be a sleeper hit, but nobody really expects it. And then it became the sleeper hit, and it's like I'll say it's a 9 out of 10. Maybe even a 10 out of 10. Like, I am that confident about this show. It has some, like, obviously, like any show, it's not perfect, but it's up there. That's why I'm almost willing to just straight up give it a 10 out of 10. Because there's not a lot of weak spots I can really think of.
It doesn't really drag in any place.
No, like, it's very much... While each episode does kind of fit a good, like, episode of the week format, where they go to a planet, they do a little adventure, and then they go to the next thing. It works for this type of... And each planet they go to does serve the larger narrative still.
Yep.
And it's not, like... There's no... We go to this planet and it didn't do anything for us. No, each planet does serve a purpose of going to. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to double down. 10 out of 10.
Alright.
The other thing I like is that Jod is...
I do like John.
I love him.
Scumbag.
He's a scumbag, but he's also like a scumbag with...
He's a scumbag with a point.
A point and a little bit of a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Like, it's under there.
Like,
You gotta dig.
like, I didn't fucking come here to kill children.
I was gonna enslave y'all, but I wasn't gonna kill y'all. And like... Also, I think... There's a moment... And it's why I think in season 2 they're gonna try to maybe do a Jod redemption arc. When everybody is leaving after they open the barrier, and Wim looks at Jod and goes, "Jod," and calls out to him as if, "Hey, get on the elevator with us. You can still come with us." Jod kind of looks back, and he's just like, "No." But then we sit with Jod for a moment. Which is why the pacing is also good, because they don't just cut away. They sit with Jod for a moment, so we see that Jod's contemplating. And I think he's contemplating that, hey, maybe I am, like, in the wrong here, and, like, maybe this is bigger deal than what I'm saying. And I kind of like that we sit on him for a second, but we don't see him make a decision. We don't get to see what his decision is.
Yeah.
Because
this is like, you did get what you wanted.
So we don't see his decision, which is, like, I think good, because that's something that can be resolved later.
Yeah.
And it's not really important to the current story. It's nice to know that he's thinking about it, but it's also good to not get that decision yet. Because he's scumbag Jod right now. He's not, and we don't have enough time in 10 minutes to, like, turn that around.
Yeah.
Also, another thing, and this goes into the last piece of news that we skipped. We did there was confirmation of a deleted scene of actress Yasmin Al-Masiri playing Jod's Jedi Master in a deleted scene. Because she posted on Instagram with some pictures of her in the trailer dressed up and everything, and her posting talking about, hey, I got to film this scene and all that, right? That scene got cut. But I think narratively, while it sucks that she didn't get to have that scene stay, because she would have been, as she calls out, she would have been the first Arab female to play a Jedi, which would have been cool. But I also like narratively that they cut it, only because
It
makes the mystery of Jod work better, because I don't need a flashback. I don't want a flashback. I think I like the idea of not fully, like, we get the pieces that we need of Jod's backstory. We now know that he survived Order 66, but we don't need to see Order 66 again.
Yeah,
because
we know what orders. We fucking know.
We have seen it so many times, especially in Dave Filoni connected stuff, which this is only semi-attached to, because once again it's part of the Mandoverse stuff.
There's only so many Jedi that can be shot before people stop caring.
So, like, I think being told it,
which
is enough.
Kind of a fucked up thing to say, but it's true.
Like, I think being told it is enough to kind of give us the pieces, and we get to keep the mystery of Jod as a person.
It's one
still.
Of those things where it's like, he's not lying about that.
Yeah, and we get to keep the mystery of, like, who is he? What type of person is he? Because I think that's the big thing, is, like, we can believe him, but also, what is he leaving out? What did he do to survive? All that stuff. But yeah, so overall, those are my thoughts on Skeleton Crew. I'm excited for seeing these characters more, seeing where we go. I like the show running behind it. I think John Watts did a really good job bringing the story to life. And I love all the characters. I like all of them. There is not a character I did not like in this show. How about you?
What?
I mean, final thoughts?
9 out of 10. Go watch it. If you got children, bring them with you.
Yeah, honestly, because... So, one of the friends of the channel, he has, like, I forget how old his children are. They're, like, 7 or 8 or 9, around there. And he posted on TikTok, he was like, I want to start showing my kids Star Wars. What should I start them with? A lot of suggestions were, like, Clone Wars... prequel, any of the first movies in a trilogy, right? You can start them with Phantom Menace, you can start them with A New Hope, or even Force Awakens, right? Any of those are good starting points, right? But I also was like, I commented, I was like, Skeleton Crew works because it's new, and it's kind of meant for that, like, it's meant for a younger, new generation audience, and it puts you in the world of Star Wars. It's very creative, and it's very, like, it puts you in the world enough that you can then go back and watch other stuff, right? I also said Young Jedi Adventures, because it, once again, meant for that age demographic, right? But I think Skeleton Crew is perfect, like, if you want to start your kids on Star Wars, Skeleton Crew works as a starting point. Because you don't have to know anything about Star Wars to watch Skeleton Crew, actually.
No, you don't, not really.
Like, it actually works really well as a disconnected piece of Star Wars media where you don't have to know anything Star Wars. Do you get more rewarded by that knowledge? Yes, like, you can, like I said, you can point out, oh, they don't know about the destruction of Alderaan, that's interesting. But that's, like, if you don't know about that, that's fine. They still explain it a little bit, but they don't, like, it's not an important detail to the show. So... that's why I think this show is great. That's pretty much everything I have on this topic. So thank you everybody for watching today's episode of Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I've been your host, Caleb. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe to us. You can find us at Escape Reality Films on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, TikTok, and Blue Sky. You can share your support for us by joining our Patreon, which is at Escape Reality Films. Shout out to Jennifer Brantley. There you can watch our YouTube content before it's publicly available. Also be sure to check out our Discord, which is also linked wherever you're watching, so you can become a part of our community. I've been doing it the past couple weeks, but I'll let you do it because it's your thing, Seth.
Oh.
Talk about our friends.
Alright. Every Sunday from, 5 to 7 Central Standard Time, you can catch some friends of ours over at Trials of Naboo. They may have changed up the schedule based on the conversation I was having with,
Okay.
John and Kiari this morning, but I don't know what those hours are, so you can go and check out the VOD on the Steam_dungeon.
Yeah, and if you go to their channel and follow them, you'll probably find announcements once they kind of settle the new schedule. Also, shout out to our friend and moderator in the Twitch side, Pixie. So go check out our friend Pixie Nixie over on Twitch. Also, go to their YouTube channel. Because I edit the videos, so that supports us also by going to their channel on YouTube. A lot of fun stuff, cozy, but also variety streamer. I don't know if she's planning to go live today or not. She's been surprising us, where sometimes she has been the last couple weeks. So, I don't know what the plan is there, but go follow her, and then you'll be able to know if she's going live. I'm looking at Twitch, and I was looking at the Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Original Deus Ex is free right now.
Ooh, Bioshock 2.
Yeah, Bioshock 2 has been free as well for a minute. But yeah, so go check out our friend Pixie. She's awesome. Also, go check out our friend Prozac Pulse over on there.
Don't we have like a...
I don't know if the timer's up or not, but we're gonna find out. 47 more seconds. I'll resend that in a second, but he is also a variety streamer.
Still waiting.
He's a lot of fun.
I would like to play some more First Descendant with you guys.
Or even once we get Dark Souls going with Yumi and Zach. We're gonna get it going eventually. I've been playing Kingsfield though, and actually getting good at it. I don't know if you have watched the videos. I have been getting good at it. I have learned the power of strafe swiping.
You got to the... I understand it now.
Yeah, I strafe and swipe. Because the game is so old that's really the technique. It's just circle around them, get behind them.
Funniest thing is that's not gonna change.
Except, once you get like to more proper Souls games, the real trick is adding rolls to that. And so, yeah. Let me see if I can do the shout out now. Yeah. Good. But once again, though, thank you all for watching. Join us next week, where we'll be making a push to get through some comics with the High Republic Adventures Echoes of Fear, as well as the entire Battle of Jakku maxi series. I've spoken.
Y'all be safe out there.
Bye.